Gentle parenting does not work, should have never come on the scene. It was displaced and turned over many, many times in the research. Please, folks, stop doing it and give yourself a break.
Hi, I'm Crystal,
Hey.
Professor of Education.
And I'm Aimee Ketchum, Pediatric Occupational Therapist.
Welcome to Plant the Seed of Learning, the podcast where we merge education and medical models to bring you science-based, practical insights on all things early childhood.
Whether you're a parent, teacher, therapist, or policymaker, we're here to help you support children from the start. So today we are welcoming our guest, Kathy Hirsh-Pasek. We are so thrilled to have you here today. So before we get started, let me read your bio and just introduce you to our listeners. So Kathy Hirsh-Pasek is the Lefkowitz Faculty Fellow in Psychology at Temple University, a Senior Fellow at the Brookings Institution, and a visiting professor at Oxford University. Her research examines the development of early language and literacy, the role of play in learning and technology. She's the author of 17 books and hundreds of publications. Oh my goodness. Has won numerous awards in her field, including being inducted into the National Academy of Education and the Association of Children's Museums Best Friend to Kids Award. Vested in translating science for lay and professional audiences, her Becoming Brilliant, released in 2016, was the New York Times bestseller list in education. Was on the New York Times bestseller list in education. Her book, Making Schools Work, was released in late fall of 2022, and Einstein Never Used Flashcards was re-released in January of 2026. So I have part of your library here in my office, and I just have to say, I have to fangirl for a minute. Your book, Einstein Never Used Flashcards, your original edition was my Bible when my girls were babies. And I'm absolutely thrilled that you've done a current rewrite. And we're going to talk about all of these things today. And I have to give a shameless plug. You also wrote the foreword of our book, The Early Childhood Promise, which
We are grateful for that.
All right, so Aimee and Crystal, I just wanted to make a correction here, okay?
please do.
On my bio, okay? None of the stuff you mentioned is really important. What's important is that I have 3 sons who I totally adore, and I have 3 grandkids who are my dream.
Yep.
And so it's all about them,
Yes,
and the other stuff is kind of accessory.
absolutely.
I couldn't agree more. I feel the same way about my 4 children. They're the reason I do everything I do. They really empower me. So important.
So thanks, guys, for having me on.
We're so thrilled to have you.
So I guess we'll jump right in to your most recent revision of your book with Roberta Gollenkoff. And you rewrote Einstein Never Used Flashcards. What provoked you to change? Was it a change in science or our culture that made this revision so necessary? And how is it different from the first edition?
Thanks, Crystal, for that. They called us and said the book had been highly successful and they just wanted to re-release it. Would I redo a foreword? And Roberta and I said, absolutely not. And they said, what do you mean? We're a major book company, Penguin Rodale. Of course, you'd be willing to just write, the preface. And I said, no, actually, we wouldn't. Because we wrote that book in 2003, which was 4 years before the iPhone came out. And the entire world of parenting and kids has changed since then. And I said, I think we have to talk about, first of all, the unbelievable, insane pressure on parents today that has come from an app that's going to tell you about every single drop they drink and every moment they go to the bathroom. I mean, if I had to live as a CEO of my kids' lives like that, honest to God, I would go insane. That would create mental illness for me. Okay, so that's a lot. And then all these toys telling you what you have to do to make your kid brilliant, then all the advice on what you're supposed to do or not supposed to do about screens, how you're supposed to know from the 500 or a million apps for the the baby to 8-year-old set,
Yeah.
what in the world you should pick, and what to do with AI coming down the pike. Well, I don't know about you, but that does not seem like the world of 2003. So I said, if you let us rewrite the entire book and you let us modernize it for the modern parent, I'm happy to rewrite it. So they said, you're crazy. No one has ever asked us to do that before. And I said, well, we're scientists and moms and grandmoms, so that's what we need to do. And they let us do it, and that's why we did it. So there's a new chapter on screen time, and everything has been updated with the current plight of the parent, so to speak. And I should say, one of the things that I read literally over the weekend from the Wall Street Journal is that finally, what do they call it? The beta parents. The beta parents are saying, no, we can't do all this. We're gonna relax a little. And I think our book is the permission to do it with scientific evidence on why. Okay. So
Yeah.
beta parents, come on in. You're going to see so many cool ideas about what to look for. And if I may just continue for one more second.
Yeah.
I now have a 6-month-old baby. Well, I don't, but my wonderful son, Mikey, and his amazing wife, Estelle, have baby Sophie. Now, I happened to be on the phone when Mikey called me. We talk like daily. And I'm on with baby Sophie and Mikey when Sophie figures out that to grab something, you didn't need, this is really your field, Amy, your whole hand. You just needed part of your hand, like your 2 fingers and a thumb. I immediately go, oh my God, Mikey, did you see that? He goes, what? I said, what? I just looked at finger thumb opposition. Now, the reason I say that is because that's brilliance. And if parents know to look for that, come on, beta parents, come with me. What you do is you marvel at the everyday
Yeah.
instead of buying the expensive toys and apps.
Yeah.
You don't need them. So anyway, that's what my book is about.
Oh, love it.
That's
We
so
talked about,
essential.
yes, and we've invited type B parents and beta parents in before, so hopefully they're here. And yeah, we're all about those mini milestones. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. So
It is
exciting.
such a great example and so important because parents don't need the fancy toys, as you said. And the fancy toys often take your attention away from your child, whereas
Hmm.
the plain Jane everyday toys that aren't musical and doing all kinds of fancy things, they really encourage the back and forth conversations and interactions that are so important for brain development.
Yeah, and I think, we've gotten into this thing. I have to give you a tirade here. I don't know if
Go
you
right
agree or
ahead.
not.
Go right
But
ahead.
my recent tirade, I have 2 tirades. One is against AI toys that talk to you for kids. Like, no, just ban them. We can go back to that later. But the second is I have a tirade against gentle parenting. It has to go. Okay, like it just is wrong. Now we used to call it permissive parenting in the olden days when it was well studied by a woman named Baumrind who came with 4 different types of parenting. You need to be warm, you need to be loving, but it's okay to have boundaries. In fact, it's important to have boundaries. But this stuff where every disciplinary moment is about describing, oh, how do you feel when you do that? But don't you want to go to school? Well, it's a good idea to have shoes because they protect you from the cold ground below. You, of course, want to put on your shoes. You know what? The kid has to get to school. You either take them with the shoes on or you take them with the shoes off. And if the kid walks on the cold ground, the kid is going to learn he never wants to go out without shoes again. Gentle parenting does not work, should have never come on the scene. It was displaced and turned over many, many times in the research. Please, folks, Stop doing it and give yourself a break.
I love that. I can think back to my own children, and there were four of them. So we were like trying to
Yeah.
get them all in the van to get to
Yeah.
church. And
Right?
sometimes one of my children forgot to put their shoes on. I didn't check all their feet because they should put shoes on, and we just
Right.
let it roll. We walked in and no shoes.
Yeah,
Like, okay, they will learn.
Exactly. They learned.
exactly. And they're
Yeah.
really not doing their children any favors. My daughter is a
Oh,
brand
no.
new kindergarten teacher, and the
Uh,
stories she comes home with, notes from parents that say, please, my child insisted on bringing this toy to school today. Please make sure it doesn't get broken.
Oh,
Whatever happened to setting rules and boundaries and being a parent and saying you may not bring that toy to school today. So yeah, putting that strain on
yeah.
teachers and it really affects school readiness when children don't have those parameters and don't have that structure. So
Yeah, it's not fair to the kid.
right,
And you think you're being really nice to the kid, but it's neither fair to the parent nor the kid.
yeah, yep, yeah. Well, thanks for that tirade.
You got it. You
Appreciate
got
that.
it. By the way, the permissive parenting literature shows that it has enormous consequences for your adolescent. So if you want to look forward to having an okay adolescent who's less likely to do drugs, you might want to give up on the permissive parenting now.
Okay,
oh,
great talk.
Does
Love
not
it.
work.
Okay, very good. So you've spent your career studying how children learn. So what would you say would be one major misconception about early childhood development that you wish parents and professionals would finally let go of? What would be
Okay,
what?
that's a great question. I'm going to answer it in two ways.
Okay.
The first is we have this notion of what we call hard skills and soft skills,
Yeah.
and it's completely backwards. So I
Okay.
wish parents knew that. We are born with a uniquely social brain.
Hmm.
The interactions that are human to human that we have with our children are what build brain skills, full stop. Okay? So when we buy all these toys to teach them vocabulary, not as good as having a conversation with your kid. When we plop them in front of a screen, no, not going to do it. Spend some time eye to eye, put your phones down. The social interactions are the hard skills. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is the research tells us, and there was a very beautiful study just came out by some people called Gulich, I think, Bart Gulich. So they asked the question, what makes for a great success later on in life, whether it's the arts or sports or whatever. Now, we all, as parents, come in with this idea that if I start my child on piano lessons at 5, they're going to be a tremendous advantage taking them toward master level when they're in adolescence and beyond. We also think that if we start our kids in soccer early, and let's be clear, the 3-year-old playing soccer just wants to kick the ball.
Hmm.
Okay? They do not care about whether the team is a blue team or a red team. All of them are kicking the ball. The 5-year-old is exactly the same. Kick the ball. So, this trying to train them to be a great soccer player in the early ages doesn't really work. I know we think it does, but the data say that the kids who started with their passion later, not earlier, the kids who got to meander as kids and figure out what they wanted to do became world class.
Hmm.
And the kids who started early did not. And where we see this a lot is in reading. Oh my God, my 3-year-old can read. Well, I'm sorry, but by age 6, guess what? You are not going to know the difference in the 3-year-old who read and the 6-year-old who learned later. So enjoy the moment.
I love that so much. And I'm so thankful you said that because I get out into schools frequently with my job. And what I've been seeing lately is in kindergarten and in first grade, if students aren't at the top of the class, their parents are getting tutors in
Yeah, I
kindergarten and
know.
first
It's
grade. Like,
crazy.
why? You don't
Well,
need
and
to
all this
do it.
stuff, right? All this stuff. And what did the American Academy of Pediatrics do this week? They said, by the way, guys, the most important thing is recess.
Oh,
So give up on the tutors.
Yeah.
You do not need them.
Yep.
Some kids, okay, my youngest son, I should be embarrassed to tell you, he honestly was just not ready to read until he got into third grade. Now, I know that's late. I know it meant that he was going to be one of the great failures of life until he became a professor of psychology. So I don't know what happened. He should have failed, right? So I think you just can't do this to people. You want to make sure they get what they need. And I'm not saying that you should wait and you should wait and you should wait. I too came up with, I read to them every night. My
mhm,
kids had to make up the end of the story. My kids were brilliant orators when they were 2 and 3. They could argue for pizza every night for dinner and make compelling arguments. Okay.
Yep.
mhm,
But the youngest one he was just not into voracious reading like the other two.
mhm.
Okay, he got there. So you want to be mindful if there's something wrong, but
Sure.
pushing just makes them hate it.
I
Mhm.
know. That's my fear. And you did touch upon the sports scene. And so I see that so often. Parents feel today that they have to put their kids in soccer and just play nothing but soccer from 3
Right,
till the end of time. And
Yes.
they do this because they want their kids to get a soccer scholarship.
Right.
Yeah, so that is so important.
And we're seeing that sports specific from a very young age in some
right.
sports that we're seeing injuries to high
Mhm.
school
Oh,
players
sure,
that we didn't
sure.
used to see until they were in college or professional athletes. We're seeing
That's
the
right.
repetitive,
That's right.
yeah. So there's that's a whole podcast in itself. I think we could do an
No,
entire
it really is. And I
Yep.
think worthy of some time because I don't believe parents know that.
Right.
Yeah,
When we know
And I
better,
think,
better.
parents are just trying to do what's best for their kids.
Absolutely.
I know.
But I just want to assure parents that even the kid who's a little slower, you know, it's
Mm,
okay. They'll come around. They need to be reading by third grade.
Uh-huh.
They don't need to be reading by kindergarten.
Yeah.
yes.
Third grade is when it transfers from learning to read to reading to learn.
Yep.
Mhm. So, in another area, when we talk about toys and gadgets in today's
Oh,
world,
yes.
apps and screens and AI and educational tech, how can families tell the difference between what's truly beneficial for development and what's just well marketed? And maybe touch upon AI toys and
Yeah,
why
yeah,
it's
yeah.
so concerning for child development.
Well, there's lots of reasons why the AI toys are really concerning for development. Where to start? These things that are marketed to, little kids, like with teddy bears and things that can record a voice like an Alexa. And here I have my favorite beautiful example of Woofy that I actually bought. Woofy is supposed to teach you responsibility and love. Now, I really wondered about that because Woofy can't talk. Woofy does wag its little tail. Woofy shakes its little head. But on responsibility, I couldn't find a place where Woofy had to have food. I don't know. I looked for it. And it didn't look like Woofy, had to go for a walk, really. So it didn't seem to me it was teaching any responsibility at all. But supposedly it has conversations with kids, and these other toys have conversations. And I can imagine the lure for a parent. Oh my God, this is so much better than being on a screen. I can buy this toy that I'll want to play with my kid, and then I don't have to. Okay, the problem is one, new research by Jenny Gibson at Cambridge. The toys don't understand little kids. They literally don't understand them. Okay. Two, they talk over them. Three, They're sycophants. I love you. I want to play with you. If you close down, I'm going to miss you. Now, it's no replacement for humans. A normal 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old in a classroom that you got to deal with when you get done with your little toy doesn't want to play every game you want to play, unless it's a very weird 5 and 3-year-old,
Yeah.
right? You got to negotiate. Things aren't going to match perfectly, and they might not love you. In fact, these toys tell you they love you 14 more times than in percentages than the parent does. Oh my God. Okay, so my rule: skip them, skip them, skip them, skip them. Did I say skip them? Um, we are doing a 4-part Brookings series on this. We
Mm.
had the second part was just yesterday on May 18th. I forget when the first date was, but if you go to brookings.com and you look for AI in the nursery, you will find our series. And we're having a live event on September 9th. And I really welcome parents to come and watch it to get more detail on why you should skip these. Okay, so that's my story on AI toys for young children that the companies say are for 13 and over. By the way, China's banned them and China makes most of them. So that should tell you everything you need to know. Okay, so now let's go to what toys are good. My general rule can be said in a tweet. Toys that are active and engaging, they force you to do something. They're meaningful and they are socially interactive. Toys that show you something in more than one way, and toys that bring you joy are the best toys in the market. So let's look at a couple examples to see what passes and what doesn't. Let's go with Legos. Legos, active. Yes, I have to put this stuff together. Is it engaging? Totally, even up through adulthood. Is it meaningful? I can make it into anything I want to make it into, and I can rearrange the parts. Okay. Is it socially interactive? You bet. Kids love to play with Legos together and create together. Is it iterative? You bet. The whole first Lego movie was about how iterative it is. I can keep rearranging and rearranging and rearranging, right? To make it the way I want it. And is it joyful? I can keep a kid occupied with blocks for a very long time. Brio train sets or anything like that. Same idea. Musical instruments, same idea. Art supplies and art games, same idea. Wait a minute, Kath. You forgot to say things with chips. Oh, yes, I did. Look, I'm not a Luddite. I'm not somebody who doesn't believe in technology. I use it all the time. I use AI all the time. But when it comes to what are the best toys, those are the best toys. And if you feel so inclined to have to get apps for your kid and put them on a screen, then make sure it has those characteristics: active, engaged, meaningful, socially interactive, iterative, and joyful. And when we tested in 2021 with Jenny Radesky, tested the 100 most downloaded apps, I want you to guess how many of them met those criteria.
Oh,
Zero.
very few.
Very few. It was 2.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Wow.
Out of 100.
Out of the 100 most downloaded apps.
Wow.
That tells you everything you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why attention spans today are a
Are
mess
down.
in
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
It really causes a shift in the way we have to teach children today
Oh,
because they're
absolutely.
coming in exposed to this hyperactivity with the
Yeah.
apps.
And no social emotional control,
Yes.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
Exactly. You talk about play a lot. If we could emphasize the play piece here, one of Crystal, my favorite topics. Um, so we're talking about the power play, what high quality play actually looks like. How can busy parents realistically incorporate play into daily life and keep it playful? Teachers, parents, like what would be your best tips?
well, as a parent, I used to have so much fun. I mean, honest to God, my kids and I really had a blast. So I'm going to give you a couple examples. Like, you got to do the laundry,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So which kid can help you figure out what's dark and what's light, you know? And then throw it, make it a basketball game. Throw all the white things into the washer. All right. Then the kids love doing the laundry. You've got to go to the supermarket. I know, drudgery, but you have no choice. So I used to play games and say, milk comes from a cow. I wonder what else is related. And then the kids and I all used to figure it out. You know, I wonder what weighs more. What can you do with this weird purple thing called an eggplant? Okay, so if you change the context, almost everything can be engaging in a different kind of way. Two other examples. Kids love to pick their nose. I do not know why, but it seems that picking your nose is a very big deal for young kids. So I've seen parents negotiate this in public places. I can't even tell you how much time they take explaining that it's not healthy, not good, it's dirty, it's whatever. I, on the other hand, said to my kids, you know, you can't pick your nose right now. They looked at me. I said, well, it's not 7:15. 7:15 is nose picking time. Oh, now I've honored them. They get to pick their nose, but they can't pick their nose till 7:15. And then at 7:15, they have to pick their nose for an entire minute. Now, let me tell you something. It
Oh.
is really, really hard to pick your nose for 1 minute. And I'm sitting there 30 seconds. You're 30 seconds more. You're not stopping early, are you? Okay. So if you do things like that, guess what? They stop picking their nose. And when you're out in public, all you need to say is it 7:15? Oh, no, no, it's not.
That is great.
Oh
That
my,
also connects to telling time.
yeah,
It,
exactly. The whole
absolutely.
lesson.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
And I mean, you know, we used to have a game in my house, as I told you about the pizza. So my kids, my oldest and youngest are 7 years apart. So, you have a little kid who's 3, one who's 10, and one who's 8. And I'm home late again, because I came home from work, and I just haven't dealt with dinner. I know, not good parenting, but we're we're going
It's
out
real life.
again,
It's real
and we
life.
have to and we have to deal with the
Yeah.
fact that we're going out. So I said to my kids, okay, you make your best argument for where we're going to go for dinner. Good luck, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
whatever your best argument. But you have to have at least 3 pieces of evidence to document your choice.
Oh, great
Okay.
vocabulary.
Okay.
Love it.
So kid one goes, well, I think we really need to go. And he picks some restaurant that's going to have, a cheese something, macaroni and cheese or grilled cheese or something along those lines. All right, kid two, hamburgers. We only want a meat diet. Okay, hamburgers and french fries, that's where we're at. Kid three. Kid three only eats things that are white. So
I have one
with
of
a
those.
little bit of the red sauce for the pizza, okay. So every night, kid three wanted pizza. And he would give the argument. His best argument is you get grain, you get a vegetable, you get the milk products. Okay, so he goes on and on about the pizza and gives his 3 reasons why we need to have pizza. Now it's fourth grade. Okay. I said, Mike comes home. He says, Mom, we learned about the 5 paragraph essay today. I said, oh, you did? That's always fun. He said to me, so easy. I said, oh, yeah? Did anybody think it was hard? He said, yeah, the whole rest of the class. I recognized it was just make your best argument.
Oh,
Oh,
wow. Look at that transference of skills. Love it.
Yeah, yeah,
And
well,
those are
that
great examples. And I love I love so basically you're saying being playful can just be doing the unexpected sometimes.
Hmm.
Like your
Yeah,
children didn't expect you to give them a nose picking minute in the middle of the day. And
yeah,
I find that's a good way for parents to kind of think of play when they're not used to being playful. Like when I do home visits, sometimes I'll tell parents, while you're dressing your child, put their sock on their hand and then giggle and say, "What did I do wrong?" and encourage language. And
Right.
there's so many things we can do that is unexpected for the child that will bring about a playful nature and encourage more interactions. Those are great examples.
yeah. And I think sometimes, what we're afraid of is being fallible. I mean, last night, like my granddaughter, who's now 11, having conversation on Zoom gets harder and harder, or
Mhm.
FaceTime.
Yeah.
So I said to her, we need to talk. She said to me, okay, why do we need to talk? I said, no, this is serious. And I said, she goes, what's the matter? I said, I have been playing tennis since I am 12. And I just had my tennis lesson, and probably a quarter of the balls on my backhand went into the net. And she goes, okay, put the phone up on the dresser and let me see the swing you used. Okay. And then we had a whole discussion about angles of the swing, how I should hold my racket, because I was willing to say, I don't know that I'll ever be great.
Mm.
And she said to me, well, you may not be excellent, but you'll probably be a good A or B plus. And I said, okay, I'm happy with being a B plus. Now, just in that moment, I gave her a lot of great lessons for middle school,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Like, it's okay. You're going into middle school. And you know what? Sometimes a B plus, even if you try really hard, is what you can get. And adults have that problem too.
Hmm.
That's amazing advice. I'm so happy you mentioned that. And it makes me think of your book, and this one, Becoming Brilliant.
Mm,
And in Becoming Brilliant, you talk about the 6 C's, which
hmm.
are so crucial: collaboration, communication, content, critical thinking, creativity, confidence. What are simple ways adults can nurture them? I feel like you ace it with your negotiation tricks.
Well, the truth is that almost everything we do, if we involve them, we have collaboration. If
Mhm.
we talk while we're doing it, why do you separate the darks and the lights anyway? Must be a reason for that. I mean, who came up with that?
Right.
Right? So if we talk about it, we're actually blending communication and content. Let me give you another example, two examples, both from Elena. Um, we were taking a walk in the forest, and it was a sunny day, and I noticed a shadow. Okay, and I pointed down to her, and I went, ah! And she goes, what? I said, something's following us. And she goes, oh my gosh, what is it? I said, Elena, this is really bad. I said, what do you think it's going to hurt? We put our arm out, it goes out. Now, notice what we're doing. Okay. I said, let's test this. Let's test this. I said, do you have a hypothesis about this? Now, I just use a term.
Mhm.
Okay. I just use a term. She says, I don't know. What could it be? I said, well, let's see if it disappears. We go under a tree, it disappears. I said, ooh, let's go over here and see if it comes back. Comes back. Sun shines through. Under a tree, disappears. I said, I think we have a theory. I think we have a theory. Let's make a prediction. All right, now notice the words I'm using. Now,
Yes.
she's learning science terms. She's 3. Okay. She now says to me, can we make a prediction around that tree? I said, yeah, let's go see if the shadow comes back. Do you see what's going on?
Hmm.
Collaboration,
Mhm.
communication, content. We're learning science vocabulary.
Mhm.
Are we learning critical thinking? We sure are. Okay. Are we learning to have confidence in our prediction and try it out? We sure are. So these things build on one another. And I'll give you a fallacy that we tend to have. One is that little kids don't have critical thinking. They absolutely do,
Of
as
course.
you could just see. The second is that you can start in the middle of these things and take them apart. You cannot. So, for example, A lot of teachers today try to teach reading. And when they're teaching reading, they're working with kids who don't have strong language skills. And Crystal, this is your world. Um, if you don't have language skills, then if you translate the phonics into something, there's nothing here in the mental dictionary. It's meaningless. So build strong vocabulary with your children first, so that when they learn the phonics, what they're reading makes sense. Otherwise, it's buh, 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 buh. I mean, this is really what you want for your child? Phonics is critical, but it's only critical. It's only critical as a tool if you have enough words to translate the alphabet into, and the print into. So it goes from collaboration, talking with one another, which is what you mentioned earlier, Amy, and those kind of strong language building, brain building skills, to communication. That's what breeds these strong language skills, to content, which allows you to do reading and math. Okay. I mean, I Spy, a game like, do you see triangles? Do you see parallelograms? Like all that sort of stuff is building language. And that language builds to later math. You go to the ice cream store, okay? You're there with your brother, your sister, and the parent wants to buy ice cream. Okay, one's 10, one kid's 3. Now, the 3-year-old's likely to get 1 scoop of ice cream. The 10-year-old's likely to get the 2 scoops of ice cream. Do you think the kid doesn't know the difference? Okay, that's math.
Exactly.
Okay, use the term double. Okay, so all these things are right there in the world to build the 6 C's. And one more wonderful example for you. Developmental psychologists don't have crises, just saying, except one day I got a call from my granddaughter again. She had a crisis. Okay, she's 3. The ball rolled under the couch. Crisis, crisis, crisis. Okay. She said, I don't know what to do. This is so, I can't get my ball out of the couch. I said, well, okay, now remember, she's in Michigan. I'm in Philadelphia. Like, we got a deal. I said, oh, I don't know what to do. She said, I said, how did you try to solve the problem? She said, I used my projected arm.
Oh my
What?
God.
Okay. She said, my projected arm was not long enough to reach the ball.
Oh my
I said,
gosh.
okay. I said, be a good scientist. Tell me what will extend your projected arm. Thinking, thinking, thinking. I said, go into the kitchen. You probably have something in the kitchen. Okay, her mother hands her a spatula. She comes back with the spatula. She tries. She sweeps under the couch. Well, projected arm with spatula wasn't long enough.
Uh-oh.
Crisis becomes even more extreme. What are we gonna do? I don't know. We got to think. We got to think. We got to think. How are we going to deal with this? We need something longer than a spatula. Think, think, think. Mother comes up with some suggestions. Broom. Broom. Kid gets broom, sweeps broom, ball comes out. Okay. Now let's look at that. Was there collaboration? Absolutely.
Yep.
Okay. Was she able to communicate what the problem was?
Yep.
Yes, even with a projected arm. Okay. Did she have content? Absolutely. We were talking about size and length. Did she have critical thinking? Beyond belief. Was she creative about her solution? Without doubt. Okay. And did she have the grit to keep going until she solved the problem? Confidence. Yes. She could have given up. She didn't, because we encouraged her that there would be a solution, but she had to find it.
That's a great example.
What great ways to build the vocabulary that you were talking about earlier that really creates readers. So parents shouldn't panic when their
Right.
children aren't reading. As
Right.
long as they're having those amazing conversations, they're building that background
Mm-hmm.
that kids need to read. When I was a reading specialist and working with little kids that couldn't read in first grade, a lot of their problem wasn't that they couldn't pull the words apart and decode them. It's that they
Yeah.
couldn't get the big picture, the meaning of the story.
Yeah.
They didn't
Yeah.
see the background.
Yeah.
And all of this is background.
Yeah.
World knowledge, as was one of my colleagues says, it's world knowledge. If you have none, then the reading it's just not going to make any sense.
No.
And that carries over to just general kindergarten readiness skills. Like when a
Yeah,
child doesn't know the difference between top and bottom of the paper, or, their directionality words, and we tell them to form a letter T, start with your pencil at the top, and they have no idea what that means and what that concept is. That's going
yeah,
to affect their handwriting, in addition to literacy, science, math, everything.
yeah, yeah. And you can do it so easily. Put the cherry at the top. Put
Exactly.
the red brick on top of the blue brick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes. So I want to shift gears just a little bit here. You work in the intersection of research and policy as a scientist, and you are amazing at sort of translating that science so that all families and parents and professionals can benefit from that information, which is what Crystal and I try to do as well with our book and podcast and so forth, because there's a lot of great information out there. And I think when parents and population has a better understanding of what does the data tell us, they
Yeah.
start helping potentially make some policy changes and really support families that need it. So what would be one policy change that you think could have the biggest immediate impact on young children and their families? What would you suggest?
I think it's important to have more parental leave time.
Yes.
I think we are either 39th or 40th of the industrialized countries in
Yes.
our support of childcare,
Hmm.
high quality childcare, not just custodial care, high quality childcare. I think as a nation, we do not support young children and families. We talk a good game and we fail dramatically.
Hmm.
Our school policies are antithetical to learning. We believe that we should be handcuffing teachers and that the problem is with teachers and with unions. It is not. It is with what requirements we have put on teachers in order to get the outcomes we want, as if education is a business to be solved like having widgets. I think what we need to do is free teachers to teach, and to help them understand what the science backed pedagogical approaches are. We call it active playful learning. And I think we use the 6 C's and we use the active, engaged, meaningful, because if we can teach in the way that human brains learn, children will learn better. We have 5 states that have already, in the United States, that have already passed laws to move education in this direction. And to be super clear with you, our kids who are in education today must exit with the suite of skills that we call the 6 C's, because if all they can do is spout out factual information, they will never, ever compete with AI models, ever. We are slower. Our memories can't hold as much. We are the great synthesizers. We, human beings, are the great creators. We are the ones who see connections between faraway things that so far the machines cannot do. Train our kids to be smart and to be learners, not to be memorizers. And I think until we change educational policy to be consistent with how brains learn and free teachers to teach in ways that teach in the way human brains learn, we as a country will continue to use the phrase used in 1974 to be a nation at risk.
Great answer.
Oh,
Hmm.
yes, that book was very good, A Nation at Risk. It really
Yeah.
highlighted important things. You really made me think of your other book, and I have to make it
Yeah. Making
work.
spells work. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
use this in my grad classes with
Oh,
teachers.
thank you.
Yeah, I did it because I love the case study approach and how you actually talk about what's happening in schools. Because
Yeah.
there's a lot that is happening that we could do much better for children. And you really touched upon that and
Well,
what you said.
you don't have to change the curricular goals.
Mm-mm.
You just have to change the way we get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And giving teachers permission, I think that is so, so crucial because they're trained to do the instruction in the classroom settings, and we take that professional autonomy away from them. Even
Hmm.
after they've gotten tenure, they've been mentored. Usually in, let's say, the business world or other professions, once professionals are mentored, they're allowed freedom to make decisions,
Hmm.
but not as much in education.
Well, I think we need to address that. Um, time and time again, we make, as I say, business decisions about a school and education instead of educationally informed or psychologically informed decisions about education. And I think it's truly a shame, and it's made people not want to go into teaching,
Mm.
um, which I think should be one of the most celebrated fields. In Finland, it's celebrated to be a teacher,
Mm.
and people in college want to be teachers. And so we need to bring back the honor of being a teacher and the respect
Mhm.
for being a teacher. And no, it can't be replaced by digital. Cannot. We saw that loud and clear during COVID. And I think it's time to celebrate our teachers and recognize them as the professionals that they are.
I couldn't agree more. You also do work with playful learning landscapes, and we
Hmm.
haven't even touched upon that yet. And I feel like we need to throw that in here before we have to end the podcast. Can you tell us about your work in that area and how beneficial it is
Sure.
for playful learning?
It's been one of the most exciting projects I've ever concocted and worked with. It came from a realization one Sunday morning when I realized, oh my God, if children only spend 20% of their waking time in school, what in the world are we doing with the other 80% of their waking time? And it occurred to me that there's a whole world out there where parents and kids are engaged in a lot of waiting. They're waiting at the supermarkets, they're waiting at the bus stop, they're waiting at hospital clinics. Couldn't I infuse these spaces with the cognitive science, the science of learning, to
Mhm.
give activities so that kids and parents got engaged in something active and engaging and meaningful and socially interactive? And if so, could we actually increase their mental, capacity and their social capacity by doing so? So it was a pretty crazy idea. And we actually got to try it out and to test it. We started the whole thing in New York City with what we called the Ultimate Block Party, which is the craziest idea I literally have ever had, which was to take over Central Park to show off the science of learning. And somehow we managed to get 25 science inspired activities. And somehow we managed to get 60,000 people to come and try out the activities. And it was insanely wonderful.
Mm.
Like one of the most wonderful experiences in my life. I was
Amazing.
in awe of what happened there and the people who came together to make it happen. I mean, we were all running around. Somebody donated these white coats, and all the scientists wore white coats
Uh,
that we had, put finger painting on them in my lab. I mean, the whole thing was insane, but it showed us that people are dying to know what we know, you know?
mhm.
And then after that, I felt truly inspired. So somebody said to me, well, can I do an honors project on that? And I said, there's a local grocery store, see what happens. So we literally just put up signage that said, like, I'm a cow, I have milk. What else comes from milk? Well, I mean, it was insane, right? We're talking insane that you got 25%, I'm sorry, 33% more language when the signs were up than when the signs were down. Are you kidding?
Wow.
That's like a slam dunk successful study. So successful, okay, that my colleagues didn't believe it. So Melissa Libertis at University of Pittsburgh said, okay, I'm doing it with STEM. We'll see if this works. I said, okay, try it with STEM. She calls me up, 28% increase. I went, She said, I'm believing. I said, okay, next colleague, Northwestern, says, Sue Hespos. I got to try this with, corner stores. I said, okay, try it with, co-ops and corner stores. She goes, this is unbelievable. What's going on here? So if you change the place to make it attractive, what happens is you get the families engaged. It's like creating the new public square. And when you create the new public square, you can do it with anything. So what do we do? So I'll give you the story. We have a three-part equation we use. Part one is we talk to the neighbors. Well, there's a novel idea, and get them involved. And then the next thing we do is we do the active, engaged, meaningful, socially interactive, right? Iterative and joyful. And we map that on to what the neighbors say they want. Okay, how can I map my stuff onto whatever it is they tell us? All right, next, I say, did it hit collaboration? Did it hit communication? Did it hit content? All right, what am I building in? So, two examples of the bus stop. In Philadelphia, in the bus stop, the neighbors picked this little area outside a church. It was where Martin Luther King gave one of his first Freedom March speeches. And they said, can we honor Martin Luther King? I said, absolutely. I'm going to put a puzzle at the bus stop. That puzzle can be anything. But if you have puzzles, you're building math skills. You're trying to align things, right? Let's do it. So we built the puzzle. And we built a couple of other really cool games to build STEM knowledge and storytelling. What happened? We studied it. We studied it. And when we studied, we saw, oh my God, parents are talking to their kids again. They're using targeted language. They're putting down their phones. Insane. So we go to Santa Ana, California. There, the population is Mexican. Okay? But they love Martin Luther King for sure. But they want to honor a game they played when they were kids called Loteria. We can use Loteria for sure. We put that at the bus stop. Now there's that big Loteria up at the bus stop. And the families are all turning around things and coming up with matches. Match like, I don't know, whatever the two squares are. And they're playing a game where we built a big mural and they're doing an I Spy, building attention skills, built right into the environment. So the last example I'll give you is affordable housing is very functional, but it's not intentional. So people who are living there live in these environments that are safe and mostly clean, but that's about it. We went to the community. We said, what do you want? They said, we want our kids to be superheroes. Other people have superheroes. We want superheroes too. So we said, okay, let's design it together. Bring your kids. The kids come, they work with the architect, and they create furniture that looks like it came out of a comic book. They create ways in which you can turn over different blocks and create your own superhero. They create at the back of a bike shed. They create a stage where the kids can act out being superheroes, an abandoned bike shed, okay? And on the front door, that looked like you were entering kind of a secure area before, with this horrible black metal thing. Now on the front, pow, you are entering the home of superheroes.
Wow.
So the project was called Live and Learn Philly. And because of Live and Learn Philly, we have now transformed 3 affordable housing spaces that the neighbors helped to design and create. It has the 6 C's, it has the active, engaged, and we honored who each community was. And as a result of that, the Philadelphia City Council has declared that every affordable housing that's built in Philadelphia will now use this system to make the houses that we've given them homes. And
Amazing.
now they'll be affordable homes, not affordable houses.
So good for Philly. I
Yeah,
love
Go
it.
Philly.
that is a
Yeah.
Go
great
Philly.
point. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
That
Wonderful.
is
So that's called Playful Learning Landscapes, and anybody can look it up, playfullearninglandscapes.com.
We will put the link in our show notes because
Okay.
it is an incredible resource and anyone can do it, right?
Anyone.
You can draw hopscotch on your sidewalk in front of your
That's
small
right.
business. You can
Yeah.
put I Spy cards in your lobby of fill in the blank. So
You
yeah,
got it.
okay,
I mean,
love it.
it's so easy. And, some of these projects cost me $65.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. That is great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. And it's all based in science. So
It's all based in science.
feel good about it. They know
Yeah.
that it's getting results. Excellent.
Yeah.
So, wow, you've given us so much to think about, and you have given our listeners so many amazing tips. But we always like to end every podcast with what is your best tip that you can tell our listeners of something they can try today, that they can do immediately, that is going to be for parents or teachers or therapists that can help the children in their lives? What is your tip that you would like to share with our listeners?
My tip is I want you to take 2 minutes out of your day, put your phone away, look in your children's eyes, talk to them about what's going on, what they think is cool, and have a real conversation.
Love it. Great
That's
advice.
perfect tip. We are so thankful that you joined us today.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody listening to Plant the Seed of Learning. We want to thank our guests, past and present, for sharing their knowledge and work. And a special thank you to our producer, Penn Ketchum. You can find our podcast wherever you listen on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. We can't wait to learn from you and plant more seeds of learning together. Thanks again.